Hey, everybody, and welcome to Harry Potter and the Totally Normal Hangout. It's episode number 6, and we are discussing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Tonight, we are going to be talking about chapters 1 through 5. So, we're super excited to be back. It's 2019. I think it's been a while since we've been here. So, super excited to be back. I'm Emily. And tonight I am drinking Blossom Brothers wine spritzer, wild strawberry, and lime zest. So that's what I'm going to be drinking tonight. We do have a quick spell question of the week. We're going to get to that in just a quick second. Just want to go around and introduce everybody who's joining us tonight. So don't forget to follow us on the socials, Twitter and YouTube with the hashtag TNTalksHP. So I'm going to throw it to Jamie and let us know what you're drinking, Jamie.
All right. Did you add the lime zest to your drink, or is that included?
It's
in the can.
In
Okay.
the can. Included
All right.
in the can.
I was going to say that's a lot of dedication. I never do stuff like that if I have to. Okay.
Already in the can. So
all right, convenient. I am Jamie. I am a Ravenclaw, and today I am drinking some chai tea with a little splash of milk. It's very warm and comforting. I'm enjoying it. Lorena, you can go next.
Thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Lorena and I am a Slytherin. And here's my Slytherin edition book. It's very exciting. It's from Bloomsbury, their house editions, straight from England. And then I also have my Dobby Lego that I got. There we go. And he has his little diary with a sock. Very cute. Thought I'd pull him out for Chamber of Secrets. And I am drinking beer. So, and let's jump to Zanib.
Hey everyone, I am so sorry about the lighting. Every time I'm like doing one of these hangouts, there's always an issue with the lighting. I apologize. I'll get it fixed ASAP. I'm Zanib. I'm a Gryffindor, and I'm also drinking a chai tea. And again, because of the bad lighting, you can see that it's a really cool looking goblet-ish.
It is. It looks amazing.
Yeah, but it's really good. And again, sorry about the lighting.
It's ambiance. It's like you're in the Chamber of Secrets. That's
nice.
Love it.
I feel like you have Gryffindor Tower vibes going on.
Yes.
Even with the tapestry behind you, it totally feels very
that's
Gryffindor
what I'm
Tower.
saying. You
very
could be
cozy
anywhere in Hogwarts right now.
I'll take it.
Well, awesome. So when we last left you, there was right after.
I think it was like literally the next day.
Was it the next day?
I think it was. Yeah.
We had trivia day, and Pottermore released a tweet that was, Hogwarts didn't always have bathrooms. Before adopting Muggle plumbing methods in the 18th century, witches and wizards simply relieved themselves wherever they stood and vanished the evidence. That was their little bit of trivia for
that was their National Trivia Day factoid.
So
should we discuss our thoughts about this? Because I have many. Should I kick it off?
Kick it off, Jamie, because I love that we're talking about this, and I love how passionate you are about it.
Yes, I have so many thoughts. Overall, my thought is that I hate this. Because I cannot believe we have, 7 books. We're on 10 movies at this point. There's the play. This is a huge universe. And of all the things to share with fans that would have been interesting for them to know in this entire universe, they shared with us essentially wizards used to shit their pants, and that is crazy to me. And I also, just from as practical as you can be with these things, I feel like it does not make sense because what about the first years who show up to Hogwarts? They don't know any magic yet. They certainly do not know a vanishing charm. So what are they supposed to master it on the first day? Like at best, you had like a couple hours after the welcome feast. This is going to become a problem. And it's like, sorry, kids, you're about to pee your pants and shit yourself. And there is nothing you can do about it because you don't know the charm that you need to vanish this because we don't have bathrooms. Also, students are not supposed to do magic in the corridors. So they can't do it anywhere they are, which means there are going to have to be specific places where they would do this. So that place might as well be a bathroom. Castles before indoor plumbing had separate bathroom areas, and people literally used to there was just like a hole and it just exited the castle. So the private bathroom area has been a thing even before the advent of indoor plumbing. And I just we had an entire conversation about this. It baffles me that this is the thing they chose to share with us for National Trivia Day. So anyone else can jump in.
I mean, I do think you have a very good point, especially if they are students from Muggle families. Like Hermione Granger would never have thought coming to Hogwarts to not use, you know, anything but an outhouse or something else, because she would not have known if she were in the 18th century that there was something other than what you did. You did not know.
Right.
So you do have a very good point for, but perhaps they didn't admit non wizarding families at that point. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Marina,
there's not
Zinni?
much. Yeah, there's not much logic to this factoid. I mean, as fascinating as it is, it kind of makes me think of what was it? The Palace of Versailles. I'm not sure of like the exact era, but like during Marie Antoinette, um, everyone went anywhere. They just you squatted, you found a place, you squatted, and you let nature do its course. But I mean, I totally agree. Doesn't make any sense unless kids wore diapers.
Who knows? Honestly.
So, yeah, I mean, I actually
this is already so outlandish they could be.
I was the only person not surprised by this fact because I already knew it. Actually, it was not very trivia for me, or I won trivia, I guess, that day because I'm writing a fan fiction set in 1792 at Hogwarts during the creation of the girls' lavatory above the Great Hall on floor 3, which is where the Chamber of Secrets entrance is. And my book is about the heirs of Slytherin. So it's not surprising to me because I already knew that Corvinus Gaunt, who is a descendant of Salazar, was tasked essentially with making sure the plans went to accordingly to create this entrance that we will discover in this book we're reading. So to me, it was very normal. I know it's on Pottermore for sure, but I think it's in her writing on Hogwarts, a history, like the little booklet. I think that's where I first read it. And when I first read it, I was like, that's weird. I didn't have as emotionally intense a reaction as Jamie, but I didn't think it was a cool idea at that moment of my first reaction to reading it in the book. But when I saw the tweet, I was just like, well, yeah, that's known. It is known. So I wasn't fazed. I mean, but yeah, Abenesco is not a known spell by 11-year-olds.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean that's a good point. The 11-year-olds, the first years, they that is not in their orientation. They don't go through, here's what you do on your first day, here's how you magic away when you have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Conveniently, most writers don't include going to the bathroom in
They
their
do not.
plots
For
because
a
it's kind
reason.
of,
Because no
Yeah.
one wants to know that.
we don't need to read about it. It's not like,
No.
unless it has comedic effect or like, I don't know, in importance, like they die on the toilet or something. I don't know.
Moaning
Or it's
Myrtle.
like their first period, or you know, some kind of like relevance to the plot or the character.
Running
But
out of toilet
otherwise, otherwise, why we don't need to know about your bowel movements. So, good old Harry
No.
Potter.
No one needs to know. That's why you shouldn't just be taking dumps in the middle of the hallway out in public.
Right. It also begs why anyone in the wizarding world would use the term loo. Because that's on the loo, comes from throwing your chamber pot out the window and into the sewage part of the street. Yeah, you wouldn't say that if you're just Evanescoing it away. So
Right. I just thought it was ridiculous that this is what they shared, that it was gross, and that ultimately there were a ton of holes in logic for how this would even go down.
Yeah, I'd rather learn more about like Andromeda Black or something.
Right, like
that's more
anything
exciting.
for anyone. We could have gotten a cool factoid about, not here's how wizards went to the bathroom. All right, next year, they better get it together and give us something good.
Very good. Well, are we ready to dive in?
All right, yes. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Something less upsetting.
Very good. Well, we start off Chamber of Secrets with the worst birthday. Last year we started Harry Potter and the Philosophers or Sorcerer's Stone with the best birthday for Harry, and now we have the worst birthday. So it's Harry's 12th birthday, and let's go ahead and start. I mean, it was sort of I guess the book doesn't really. I was like, there's really not much for me to recall in this. The Dursleys are getting company. Uncle Vernon has some business deal that's going to happen. And the one thing I took away from this, that doing drill manufacturing, does one truly make enough money that you're going to be able to afford a vacation home in Mallorca? That was the one
I have
thing
no idea.
I
I know. I do not know enough about
yeah, I don't know
industry.
Property values in Mallorca in 1992, but I do think he's shown as like an executive in the first book. So he has like a window office, not on the first floor. Like he can look out because he keeps looking out and seeing all the weird people, the people dressed weirdly,
right,
acting weirdly. Or he doesn't see it even though it's happening behind him because he doesn't look out the window.
Right.
Because he has no soul.
Yeah, maybe if you have some kind of like government contract or something, it's more lucrative. Like, I have no idea. Or they're just the Dursleys and they think that this is going to be, like this might just be some random, like regular, mediocre business deal, but they're convinced that it's going to be, the be all end all of his career.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it goes to hell, so who knows? Like if they ever would have gotten a vacation home. But I thought it was such a shame for Harry to be back there because being there his entire childhood was terrible, but at that point he didn't know any different. So to go to Hogwarts where he, like that's his home now, it's amazing, he found his people, to then have to go back and to spend all that time there with them is awful because now he's aware of, how much better his life can be and, that there's this place he belongs and these people he belongs with and he cannot spend time with any of them. And like, it's only a couple months over the summer, but still, like he's young. That's a long time when you're, 11 or 12. So, I felt bad and was actually happy for him in a way because they're like shoving Harry to his room to be away from this dinner party. Like him being there is going to ruin the night when really Harry is going to have the best night out of anybody because dinner parties like that are awful. He can just go up in his room, hang out with Hedwig, you know, just chill and not be around the Dursleys for a little while.
It's like kids today that, or even, I guess, fine, ground me, send me to my room, mom and dad. That's,
Right.
you know, please let me go be with my books. I really
Yeah.
don't mind.
That's how I was.
Mhm.
Like, you couldn't, grounding me wasn't a useful punishment because I just spent a lot of time in my room alone anyway. So, but I did feel we start to really see like Harry becomes more sassy. I mean, he's pretty sassy in the first book in places, but he's really just like a sweet kid in the first book because he's just trying to like exist in this world and not like ruin this great thing that's happening to him. And I think we start to see him getting, maybe a bit of hormones starting to kick in here because he really pushes his luck knowing that he can't mention magic without them freaking out, and then he gets in trouble for it. Even though something weird does happen, he sees those green eyes in the hedge. And then, like, I get that he's 12 and is being ignored by his friends. And so I did feel bad for him in that sense where, like, when you're that age, like, everything's a really big deal. And, like, bigger than big, like, oh my God, big deal. And so when he didn't get any letters, they had left for the summer where Ron's like, yeah, I'm going to ask my parents if you can come stay. Like, don't worry. You won't have to be with the Dursleys. It's going to be great. I'll write to you. And Hermione's like, I'll write to you. We're going to keep in touch all summer. And nothing. He hasn't heard anything. And like, to this point, he's like, wishes he could just see Draco because then it would be like, at least this was real. Like this really happened to me. But then I'm like, you have an owl in your room. Like that should be enough proof this is real every day. But I did also see, like, we got more development of the Dursleys in that Petunia is very, like, we know they're a normal, I don't want to call this normal. We know they're like a stereotypical patriarchy family. And I thought that was really well shown where Petunia was essentially cooking all day for this dinner party. And the boys are doing nothing. What's-his-face is at work. And then Harry messes up and is assigned all these chores. But it's like, why wouldn't he have been doing those chores to begin with for no punishment just because they needed to be done for the dinner party? So I kind of thought it was a little, I don't know, weird. But I do love the line where he's like, if they could see the famous Harry Potter now as he's spreading manure on the plants. I thought that was maybe the best line from this chapter.
So. Yeah, I like Sassy Harry, but as much as I love Sassy Harry, I hate Petunia. And what's the rating for our Hangout, by the way? Because I really hate this woman in this chapter.
Whatever. We say whatever.
She's a bitch.
Yeah, shit.
I hate her. I'm sorry. I don't curse a lot, but I mean, just reading that first chapter, not only is she brandishing, I'm reading it right now, a soapy casket iron, excuse me. And then after he does all of his work, she gives him a lump of cheese and 2 pieces of stale bread. Like, lady, really? Come on now. Come on.
I know. She just, like, goes out of her way to be... I mean, they all do go out of their way to be terrible. But that's her nephew. Like, that's her sister's child. So there's an extra kind of element to that when she's that horrible to him, because if nothing else, she should have, that connection with him.
I also noticed there's just one more thing. The parallel between the Dursleys and the Malfoys, they're both social climbers. but also kind of have that, you know, bigoted tendencies to be complete a-holes, but also like wanting people to accept them, which I thought was very clever of JK.
Yeah, she definitely has that thread running, and I think they compare the kids throughout, Dudley and Draco throughout. But also, it's fun what you said, the bigotedness, because they both hate the opposite of, what they are,
Right.
and it's kind of funny. It just kind of shows how stupid, prejudice is. So. All right. But when he gets in his bedroom, it wasn't fun. He didn't get to enjoy his books because Dobby was there.
Okay, I have to show you from the illustrated version. Can we see cute little illustrated Dobby? I love this painting of
He
him.
is cute.
He is darling in here, and I was like, not at all the CGI from the movie.
No, his eyes sound enormous. It says that they look like tennis balls. Like, that's huge. Like, if that were on anything else, that would be terrifying, something to have eyes that big. But it's Dobby. So you love him.
You do, and I love that Harry thinks before he speaks and says, instead of saying, "What are you?" he, he's changed in that, 1 year at Hogwarts.
Right.
And, to Lorena's point, was it all real? Like, here is this magical creature suddenly in your bedroom. So, go ahead, Jamie. What were your thoughts?
Well, everyone loves Dobby because he's Dobby, regardless. But this is the first time, we ever see him. And he's risking so much to come and do this for Harry. Like, he's risking everything. Like, the rules and stuff that house elves are governed by regardless, but the Malfoys are extra terrible. And he's already, they have this weird, like, self-harm instinct that's terrible, and he does it over and over and just defies all of that because it's that important to him that Harry Potter knows that something bad is going to happen at Hogwarts and that he needs to be protected, and Dobby is going to do whatever he has to do to make sure that happens. And it's a brave thing for him to do. Like, he doesn't have any real, protections or anything like that, and he goes for it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think that our introduction to him really demonstrates who he is as a character and what he fulfills, in the final book. But I like Dobby, but he's really annoying. He does have I think he's more annoying in the movies, actually, than in the books, because in the books he feels more like an adult. Does that make sense? Like, he's not, in the movies he kind of feels like a sniveling toddler with dirty hands that you don't want to touch. But like in the books,
I don't think so.
That's the feeling I get. I don't know. But in the books, he felt like, I hadn't read Chamber of Secrets before. So this is my first read, my first true introduction to Dobby, non-CGI. And he definitely feels like an adult with real, like a 22 to 26-year-old adult who's like been through some crap, but is like enough, I don't know, like enough seasoned in life to take a stand, and like go and defy his restrictions. And I think when the Weasley twins are like, you can't really break that magic. Like, that magic's really strong. Someone would have sent him. Like, they don't think that it's even possible for Dobby to have done what he did. And that's like pretty hardcore. So I definitely felt more into Dobby book version. He's almost like, he almost like they see Harry Potter, the house elves see Harry Potter as like this savior in a way of their species, and that their treatment level has gone up on the whole like a ton. And so he's just like inadvertently caused, you know, civil rights to happen for these creatures just by not dying. I just thought it was really crazy how, I don't know, intense he is, how intense Dobby is, and that he's the one who can overcome it. And he's the only one who really can, because he's the only one exposed to the plot. You know, he's the only one who could know what was happening with the Malfoys and what the plan was. So, and it's a long-standing plan. You know, it's a Voldemort's plan from before he went underground or whatever, before he disappeared. So yeah, I don't know. That's my Dobby thoughts. I did have one Hedwig thought though, before I pass the baton. And we talked about sassy Harry, but I really like sassy Hedwig. When she won't eat the soup extras, she's just like, no, turns up her beak. She's like a little, like a cat, like a prissy cat, and just will not. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, she's been trapped in her cage all summer. She's not getting good food. She's not having it.
No, and I loved that. I loved Hedwig's characterization. So I wanted to throw that in.
Zainab, what did you think of Dobby?
I kind of got a bit emotional. I think just because in like preparing for this, I kind of like went back and rewatched Deathly Hallows and yeah, and it was on. I think it was on TV.
It gets me every single time. It kills me.
You know, Emily, your photo of the painting of Dobby. I mean, I got so choked up because, you know, Dobby to me has just been this kind of like quintessential kindred spirit to Harry, with his situation living with the Malfoys, and then of course with Harry with the Dursleys. It's like you're alone in a sense of being isolated from this family. Granted, Dobby's enslaved, but at the same time he's like living with this family. And with Harry, it's just this isolation, but also finding each other, even though it's, you know, he's 12, Dobby can be however old he is, but there's definitely this sense of both of them kind of getting each other, which I really appreciated. And I cannot go through Deathly Hallows without crying. It's just, it really gets me. But yeah, that's how. Freed elf.
I know, I always lose it.
Yeah. So this movie came out around the same time, if you remember, as The Two Towers, the second Lord of the Rings. And so it was the introduction to Gollum and Smeagol that was happening sort of around the same time. And MTV gave like an award that was like best CGI character. It was the first time they had ever done that. And so like Gollum and Smeagol and Dobby were all up for an award, and Andy Serkis like ended up winning the award for obvious reasons over Dobby. But they were still filming like Return of the King or something, and Andy Serkis had done like this really funny thing where like Gollum was, you know, saying we're really excited for the award, but Smeagol was like, you know, they had this thing, well, Dobby is our friend, and like they did this whole thing. When I was in New York, I was living in New York, and Andy Serkis did some book a little bit later where he was talking about what it was like for becoming Gollum and Smeagol, and everybody was asking him to do like their favorite lines and talking in that, and I was like, everybody's asking you to do their favorite lines. My favorite line is, Dobby is my friend, and he's like, well, Dobby, and he goes into the voice, and he's like, well, Dobby is my friend. I meets him at Hogwarts, and like he did this whole thing, and so that was just like one of my favorite little memories where Andy Serkis in Smeagol's voice talked to me about Dobby. So that was just one of my cute little memories of, I was like, oh, little Dobby, and like here Smeagol is talking to me about Dobby. So I loved that. So
I think I remember that skit. Yeah, and I think they panned right over to Elijah Wood.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I love that. So, that was just like, everybody's like, something about what's taters, or he was doing all night for anybody who stood in line to have him sign their book or whatever. And I was like, everybody's asking you to do lines from the movie. Mine was what you did for MTV and how Dobby is your friend. And so anyway, that was my little aside about Dobby. So, anyway,
I have a quick question before we jump into 3. Is the end of 2 when they escape Harry, or is that the beginning of 3?
At the end of 2, Harry looks out the window and sees Ron there.
Okay.
And that's it. So it's like, and then right at the next chapter, they get into it and bust him out. And like,
right.
I'd forgotten that even like Fred and George actually go in the house and like sneak downstairs and get his stuff, and they're like walking around that they essentially take their sweet time and getting him all ready. And the only reason Uncle Vernon wakes up is because they forget Hedwig, or like whether they were actually going to forget her or not, but Hedwig feels like she is being forgotten and makes noise, and it makes Uncle Vernon wake up. But like in the movie, they rip the bars away from the window. It makes this huge noise, and he comes in, and it's like
they're much better. Like, you see how skilled they are at getting away with things
right
in this, and I have a whole plan for the bars. They're like, NBD, we got this.
Right, they're set.
We're gonna go in. Don't worry, we have something to pick a lock. A lot of people think this is dumb because you have a wand, but hello, we're in a situation where you need this. Like, you can't use magic. You already got in trouble for that. So I thought we like really got to see the twins in their element.
That's if they were in the Muggle world, the twin Fred and George would be in they'd be like spies or like in intelligence or something, because they are prepared for anything. They improvise if they need to. They get it done.
Where is that fan fiction
of Fred and George being
spies?
That would be amazing.
Sure it is. I've seen a lot of spy fics.
Yeah.
I bet it's there.
Well, we didn't, Harry finds out that Dobby's been stopping his letters and all of those things. And we find out that we did miss that Harry gets the letter from the Ministry, the improper use of Ministry of Magic in front of Uncle Vernon, and that they find out that, so that he's like,
right, because Dobby drops the dessert custard thing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about how they install a cat flap in their? They literally saw open their door and put a cat flap in it and feed them like nasty soup. Just like they were shitty in chapter 1, and then they take their shittiness to a new level.
Right, like they're going through a whole lot of extra effort there just to be extra terrible. Like
spite, like
yeah,
it should just be called the spites, because like that's what they are. They're just totally spiteful for no reason. Like, this kid has done nothing wrong for you. It's very frustrating.
I mean, at that point, I know we're kind of moving on, but because Loretta, you mentioned the cat flap. I mean, this part kind of made me question if Rowling made them too terrible. Because you're right. I mean, are they that spiteful? I mean, you have this magical boy in your house, you hate magic, and you go out of your way to give him cold soup through the cat flap.
Right. Like, in a way, they're almost like comically awful. Like, just so over the top.
Yeah.
With, all these things they go through.
Like, we learned that Malfoy flogs Dobby for burning his dinner, but like they're not feeding Dobby through a cat flap, you know, like it's not that bad. It's not as bad for Dobby in this one instance where it's just like Harry's freedom stripped away, and to the point where he's like can't see a way out, and he's 12. I mean, he just turned 12. So like he doesn't have a phone. Like he can't really use magic. He doesn't really have his wand at that point. It's under the stairs. And he's locked in. It's like he's in prison. So it's just really creepy kind of. I think like just disturbing. It's a disturbing scene that's made comical. But if you took the comedy away, it would be
right. That's it. If this were like a Muggle story, and you found it, if that were like a story on the news, like we've heard stories like that, like they're awful. Where kids are like locked up, and it's horrifying. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
J.K. Rowling.
But they make it to the Burrow, to the Weasleys, which is a much better family. And I think it's hilarious that they think Molly is not going to know. Like, this woman has 7 children. You cannot get one over on her. Like, 3 teenage boys. Like, they think they're really going to just sneak in under mom's nose. She's going to have no idea. Like, there's no way. Like, they should have just been upfront about it. And then she would have told them, like, oh, yeah, me and your dad were talking. If we don't hear back from him, we're going to go get him. And avoided all this nonsense.
Okay. The thing is I only had 2 siblings, and I snuck out all the time, and my parents did not know.
Did you use a flying car?
I know.
Right. That's it. Like, Fred and George are not subtle people.
I don't know. We just talked how they could be spies. So
they can't be, but I mean,
yeah,
it's like,
let's restate, because they said we've done this loads of times. Don't worry. So Ron had never been in the car, but Fred and George had taken the car out loads of times. So many times they couldn't even keep count, and never been caught. Like their dad never had known.
Been caught doesn't mean that she didn't know.
I have tons of friends who come from families of 7 children, and their mothers act very much like Molly, where they can't keep their names straight, and they got away with so much shit that their parents were like, they had no clue. And I think that there are things that could have happened that, you know, like Fred and George got away with, have done this loads of times.
I mean, apparently, because they said they've done it, but I don't know. Like, eventually, this kind of stuff is going to catch up to you. Like,
I think she was more mad,
especially because
to a Muggle neighborhood, and I think that's why and to your credit, to your point, like maybe she did know all along, but it wasn't a problem until they got Harry. But I do like that Harry's like, when she's turns to him, he like literally steps back, because he's so worried she's
and just because like their plan to tell her, like, oh, they were just going to say that like Harry showed up in the middle of the night, like that's so dumb. I don't know. I know.
I thought that was very believable, and I loved when they were leaving and Harry calls out, "See you next summer."
I know, that's another like Harry sassiness.
12-year-old boy thing to do, but I don't know. I think I like Molly, and I think she didn't know other times because she didn't need to know.
Right.
But in this instance, they kind of broke the law that their dad protects.
Right, that's what I'm
So
saying. Like, if they're just kind of messing around, other instances, she might be like, you know what, whatever. They're not doing anything too bad. I'm just gonna let them go. But like, yeah, there could be very serious consequences for
I'll
this
give you
one.
that. I'll give you that because I mean, if they're taking the car out just in their neighborhood, like they live in a remote area.
Mhm.
So if they taking the car to Surrey and back, that's one thing.
Mhm.
Taking the car out to the back 40, I mean, that is true. We had friends who like drove well before they were 16 because you drove on your property because you could, and that's
Mhm.
what it was. You didn't get in trouble for that because you weren't breaking the law
Right.
driving on streets. So
Well, and they're also tossing gnomes around in
I
their
forgot
immediate,
about the
which
note.
I forgot about that too. And I have to say, like, we're talking about Dobby in the last chapter. Like, I feel bad for the gnomes. Like, they're just flinging them around, and like they can talk. Like, they obviously have some sort of like consciousness. I thought it was terrible. And Harry's like, he stopped feeling bad for them because like they started biting him. Like, yeah, no kidding, they were biting you. You're
Flinging
pulling
them.
them out with a heart and you're flinging them around. I'd bite too.
well, I think we can compare it to something that is similar to a pest, like a rabbit or a rat.
I know, but your rabbits don't talk to you as your
Because you're a
But
muggle.
Well, and you also don't grab rabbits by the ears and toss them over your fence
No,
if you want to
you
get
don't
them out of your
poison it, 'cause that's so much nicer. No, at least they weren't murdering them. And they snuck right back in. So the whole denoming seemed pretty stupid in general. Also, like, what were the gnomes doing that was problematic? Why are the gnomes?
Molly just probably had them do it because she knew it was going to be tedious and annoying.
Yeah, I think she did it just as a punishment. Like, no, you're up and you didn't sleep, so you're gonna go denome the garden.
Right.
But no, it was just a normal like silliness. I didn't feel bad for the gnomes.
I don't know. I felt bad.
I loved it.
I felt bad for Arthur Weasley. That's who I felt bad for.
I don't know. Zanib, are you pro or anti gnome? I
mean, after that whole rabbit situation, now I'm thinking, wait a minute. But I mean, doesn't it? I can't remember, but don't they feel ticklish though when you throw them? Like it doesn't hurt them. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I read it somewhere.
I don't know if that's gnomes or not. There's something that's ticklish. That's about something. I don't know if it's about this or not. I don't know if we find that out later. But
maybe not. I can't remember.
I don't think that was in this chapter. But there's definitely something somewhere about something being ticklish. I'm sure. I guess we'll come across it. But
yeah,
I want to live in that house. I mean,
I know it sounds so cozy. Except I forgot.
So unstable.
It does. It's literally held up by magic entirely. But I forgot that they had a ghoul in the attic.
I didn't forget because I had no idea. Like, what? Does the school come back up, or is it just like?
Yeah, that's like when Harry is there. I think on different. I think they mention the ghoul again, and I had totally forgotten.
So weird. Is it like a note? Do they know the ghoul?
I don't.
Or is it
know.
just like?
Okay, I think you just
or something.
I think it's just always references to like hearing the ghoul like throwing chains around and making noise, and I don't know why they can't get rid of it or what. I
can't
it's like a peeve situation.
Right, it must be.
I also noticed the clock is totally different in the book than in the movie, and I think it's actually cooler in the book because it's a lot more practical.
Well, and also like maybe that's how Molly found out. Like if when Fred and George are up to their shenanigans on these other times, if like the hands on the clock could have been pointing to like they're doing something stupid.
But that's not what that's only in the movie. In the book, it's like you're late for something.
Right, but I don't
or
think we see all the hands. Like, I think there are various ones that kind of point to what everyone in the family is doing
no, I
because
think it's
once
just like in general
Voldemort comes back, all the hands point to mortal peril
Right.
on her clock.
in the
So
book.
in the book, yeah.
Oh,
So I think there are just a bunch of different scenarios on this clock to let her know what everyone is up to.
I did. There's so many cute details in this chapter.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about Celestina, whatever is her favorite.
Celestina Warbeck, yeah.
Yeah, and she's
It's
on the
a very
radio.
good, like, world building kind of
Yeah.
chapter. You just get lots of cool little details.
What
Yeah.
about when we get to see Ginny's crush on Harry? Well,
Oh my
their
God.
first interaction. I
Oh,
mean,
dear.
I'm not a I will admit I'm not a Harry Ginny shipper, but I found that very cute.
I know. Well, you feel bad for him because, like, when you have a crush on someone like that, it's like you're just like embarrassed to be just like in their like you can't look at that. You don't. It's I feel bad for him. And
It
he's
was
only
like
11.
when you and I met Tom Hiddleston.
That's right. I know. Can you imagine if he like lived in your house with you for a time? I would lose it.
Oh my gosh.
That interaction was what, like 10 seconds maximum,
Yeah.
and we barely made it through that. Like, we lost it. That was her over and over again the entire time Harry was there. Poor Jenny.
Right. And like pre any kind of, like adultness, like she's still a child.
Right.
He's
It's
still
like
a
little
child.
girl
Where
crush.
they're just
Yeah.
like everything's like so pure still.
Yes.
There's no weirdness.
No.
But oh, sweet
So
Jenny.
cute.
So sorry, Emily.
Well, no, I just thought it was so funny because Harry goes from being, when he's like, if they could see the great Harry Potter now, and then suddenly he's there with Ginny, who like is like, oh, it's Harry Potter. So
Yes, she actually thinks he is the great Harry Potter.
right, literally
times.
overnight,
Yeah.
he gets that.
Which,
So.
he's going to tease her about that later in their married life. He's going to be like, remember that summer when you couldn't even look at me?
Yeah.
I don't know. She would be like, okay, remember how for the next like 3 days I'm not talking to you and you get to cook your own
she
stuff.
can give it back to him for sure.
Yeah, like
Ginny's not going to take that.
She's like worse than Molly. Like she is not having it.
Yeah,
She's
Ginny
intense.
takes no crap.
I
I like
want to
Ginny in the 6th one. I think she definitely comes out of her shell.
She does, yes.
I do want to just like shout out Arthur Weasley because I love him. And I just love how he's so excited that they took the car. And then like Molly is
so pissed.
So livid. And Ron's like, okay, it's time to go, Harry. Like, let's go upstairs. Yeah. But I just really enjoy like what we meet him in this chapter for the first time.
And he's like, Harry who?
I know.
Like he's so like whatever. And then he's like, oh shit, that Harry. Got it. But he's just, I don't know. I just love him. And I love how he's like he's like balding and just this like totally middle-aged man in the books. Even though he's like 42 or something.
Right. Like he's a good guy. He's like the only good dad in the books.
So far.
Which I know in book 5, J.K. Rowling said, because that's when he gets like attacked by the snake, that she thought about killing him there, but that ultimately she could not bear to do it because he was like the only good father in this thing, and like they could not lose another one.
No, he's such a precious soul.
Right, like he had to stick around, and ultimately she could not do it.
Like Arthur's has always been one of my favorite characters because he's just so like protective and like intense. But like in a low-key way. It's not He doesn't have
Was he?
oh, Zanib. There we go.
Got it.
Okay. Crazy muteness happening. I don't remember what I was saying. Something
and
about how I love
he,
Arthur.
he has that protective dad thing, but he still has like that like sense of fun because like
Yeah.
you know he likes all the Muggle stuff and he's excited
Such
to get the car out and like wants to know
Yeah.
how to win and Yeah.
He's great. And I feel like they actually, in the script, they take a line directly from the book, and it's the one where he's like, "Did you really?" And it's like, it's so hard to read it without hearing.
How did it go? Yeah.
Talk.
I remember seeing that one in the movie theater and everybody laughed when that happened because that like Molly turns around and she's up because that's such a like, you know, conspiring with dad kind of thing. You know, it's like wait until your father gets home and he hears about it. And it turns out he's pretty excited. And kind of jealous that he didn't get to do it too. So next chapter, while he is at the burrow, they get all of their school supplies, their letters of the stuff they are going to need. And we find out that, I mean, I guess they don't know that Gilderoy Lockhart is going to be the teacher yet, but they need to buy all of his books. And I did see something on Tumblr about how Gilderoy Lockhart making everyone buy his overly expensive books is one of the most realistic parallels to like Muggle University that exists in the series, and it is so true. I had to do that for several classes. And I honestly, I think 9 times out of 10, I did not even crack the books open, and I just stopped buying them after a while because they are so overpriced. No one else is buying them, and so the teacher makes the students buy their ridiculous books over and over again every semester.
Yes. There was also the he finally got a letter from Hermione while he's at the burrow. Which was like, yay, finally.
And it's one of those they have to have this communication back and forth by owl. Like, you know, it's like Mr. Weasley is so interested in this Muggle stuff because, yeah, like you can use the phone if you're a Muggle and you could figure all this out in 30 seconds.
Yeah. One of my favorite Tumblrs is when they install the internet and Wi-Fi at Hogwarts, and it's called like Hogwarts Wi-Fi or something like that. And I loved it. So the use of Harry's first use of flu powder, and they just expect that he knows how to do this, and you're like, okay, well, wait a second. And they're like, oh, and when he's talking about this, how did you get to Diagon Alley last year? And he's like, I went on the underground. And he's like, and Mr. Weasley's like, were there escalators? And it's like escalators, you know, trying to get that all together. But explaining how that goes, the one thing that they put in the movie that I was, you know, you think that he said Diagon Alley incorrectly, but he didn't. But it's like, why can't two people go in the flu together?
I
like,
was thinking that. Why can't you buddy up?
Right. Why do you have to go individually? Because it sounded like other people went together. And they're like, don't go two grades, don't go, you know, make sure you get out of the right grade. Like, how does he know what grade to get out at?
And like, why do you have to say, like, saying Diagon Alley should just like let you off at the right grade? Like, why do you have to say it and then also be looking to get out at the right one? Yeah, this seems a very overly complicated process.
Right. So it just was like it just felt really funny, and how he ended up at Borgin and Burke's. So I was just like that just thought found me. I just was like that just I was so used to how it happened. He said the wrong word and he ended up out, too far, ended up at Borgin and Burke's, and that just cracked me up. So I was like, that's not how it happened at all in the
No.
book.
And Borgin and Burke's is not where you want to be. There's like all kinds of. I have to say, in Universal, it is a really cool store. If you go into the Borgin and Burke's there,
Oh
like
yeah,
it's awesome in there. That was probably one of my favorite stores. I loved it.
I loved it too.
But if you're 12 and alone and you don't know where you are, kind of creepy.
Kind of creepy. When you're down there in Nocturne Alley and you're like, what is this? So
what a freaky coincidence when you get to see the Malfoys and you get to see Lucius for the first time.
And yes, how coincidental that they happen to arrive
Draco.
right then.
Yeah. And you're like, what is this? We're selling something. What are you selling?
I know. And it kind of goes without saying, but like Lucius is not a good dad. We were just talking about Arthur being a really good dad. Like, he's terrible. He has that, that very traditional, keep your kids in line, and I don't know. It's just
right.
I can't say like I feel like I like Draco as a character because I think he gets a super interesting arc later on, but it's kind of the seeds are being planted here. How having a father like that is going to affect him, and later on as he grows up, it's just I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Absolutely. So we're at Flourish of Bots, and I think the Lorena, you're back. You made it back. And now you're from Nebraska and not Slytherin, it looks like.
I am. It got too warm, so I had to remove my Quidditch jumper.
Okay. Well, we just got to Flourish and Bots. We talked.
Yes, Harry. He got out of Flourish and Blots. I mean, he got out of Borgin and Burke. Super creepy.
Yeah.
Hagrid was there again. What an amazing coincidence! Hagrid was there at the perfect moment, and they go to Flourish and Blots.
But let's talk about what you wanted to about Borgin and Burke. So, really quick.
I love that he ends up there by convenient plot device of fireplace. But I like that we get introduced to Lucius this way because he's so you kind of know about him in book 1, but then to really like meet him in his element, I feel is great. He's trying to like get rid of dark objects because they're having all these raids, and he's such a snob. Like, he's so terrible. And then you see like why Draco's such a selfish dick. And so obnoxious, and he's such an annoying kid that even Lucius like doesn't really like Draco.
But but it's his fault. Like, Draco didn't get that way on his own,
right? But I think that it's I think he probably sees himself in Draco and maybe didn't like his dad that much either, and so they have this weird sequential problematic father-son relationship.
Right. No one is willing to break the cycle of bad dads.
Yeah.
Don't know how to talk about my emotions.
Exactly. And I think that the other thing I wanted to just say was that we get our first glimpse of the vanishing cabinet, which was pretty cool. So I think she probably didn't intend it. It was just like, oh, let's have a cabinet so he can hide. But then, oh yeah, I put that cabinet. That would be a cool thing to use later on. So that's kind of my take on it. But I think it was still fun that we got to see it. So on to the bookstore.
On to the bookstore, yeah. I had forgotten that the Grangers came, that Hermione's parents were there.
Yes. And I love that another little like sort of world building thing is that they exchange their muggle money in Gringotts to get the wizard money.
Yeah,
And
'cause
one of those things I'm wondering, I'm like, so then what do the goblins do with the muggle money? Because like they're not going to take something that's going to be worthless to them. Like they have to do something with
I think they would invest it in something. Like that seems like
right.
something very goblin-y to do.
And then I was thinking, wouldn't that be an interesting piece of trivia that could have been shared? What
Now,
exactly do the goblins do with the muggle money that gets exchanged instead of, say, wizards used to crap their pants? But what do I know?
I want to know, how does not just having a muggle attend Hogwarts, but now their parents get to come to Diagon Alley and go into Gringotts. How does that affect the statute of secrecy and the inner workings of the Gringotts Bank and the wizarding world? Because I feel that really affects the statute of secrecy and the ins and outs of the working of the wizarding bank. So
I mean,
that's
I
my question.
guess, yeah, I guess the assumption is that like parents, and then I guess if you are a wizard and you marry a muggle, that like a spouse could know and they would just keep the secret. Yeah, because I mean, like when kids are young, especially, like the parents have to be involved somewhat. So, yeah, like are there like is there just an assumption that the parents are going to keep a secret, or are there actual like these are the rules you have to do that? Like, do they get an official like rundown
Like, what if
on the
Hermione
statute
had
of
a younger
secrecy and all that
sibling?
stuff?
well, also
Right.
the bigger question is how do they even get in? Because you need a wand to tap the bricks a certain way. So is every muggle born escorted in to Diagon Alley the first time, and then the wizard or witch is taught the method to go? Because you go through Leaky Cauldron.
Right.
That's
I
like
mean, I
the
guess
London
someone at the
entrance.
Leaky Cauldron could just take you through.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
true.
But
That
yeah,
makes
like that
sense.
would be an interesting thing to know. Like, is that what
Yeah.
happens?
Like,
And
that's
like
the
someone
trivia
take
we
you?
want to know.
we
Right.
want to know this trivia.
Right.
We don't care if Arthur knows about bus stops. Like, I mean, I was sad he didn't get to ask, but like, that's what we want to know.
Right.
Do they crap their like? There's so many ways to not crap your pants that Muggles are doing. I feel like that was stupid trivia. Except in France, apparently. Like
We're coming to your side, Jamie. You get this, right?
See, I knew it. I knew I was right, and that it was only a matter of time until everyone else came around.
So
I did love seeing the Grangers, though, especially knowing that Ron and Hermione are gonna get married, and so they're gonna become in-laws. And
I
now
know.
we get to see like Arthur just like geek out and be like, "I'm taking you guys for a drink, and we're
Yes.
gonna talk. And we're just talk about Muggle stuff, and you're just be Muggles, and I'm gonna get to like okay." And then Molly's just like rains on his parade and doesn't want him to ask like more questions. I'm like, let Arthur be Arthur. Like this is his glory moment. He doesn't get to interact with Muggles that often, and these are in a safe space. Like,
I think she feels like his fascination with Muggles could be potentially dangerous. So she kind of
she needs to get over her shit
kibosh on
because
it.
she's about to be related to these Muggles who are very nice people that go through a really traumatic experience. Is all I'm gonna say.
That's true. Yeah,
True.
we'll get there.
All right, but
eventually.
speaking of Molly, I think we need to get her to Gilderoy and her
my
crush.
yes,
Gilderoy?
Gilderoy Lockhart. So have you all seen the meme that says, "I'm never going to get over the fact that this guy directed Thor," since we all love Thor for various
Yes,
reasons.
I know.
And it says, did he though, or did he just obliviate the actual director and stick his name on the credits? And I know that comes later in the book, but
Yes.
I love that meme,
He
and
could have. We would never know.
I think we know because Tom Hiddleston would know because he got the role because he worked with Kenneth Branagh before.
I do have to
Right.
say though, I love Gilderoy Lockhart because he is so terrible, and I hate him so much that I love it. And the fact that J.K. Rowling said that this was really the only character that she legitimately like based on a person that she knew, with what she says are very little changes in terms of like personality, that like she
Oh,
really did
wow.
know a guy who was this like delusionally full of himself. So I think that's hysterical. That I mean, I
It
think we've all
sounds
met at
real.
least some version of this guy.
Yeah.
And I think Kenneth Branagh does great, and I love him in the movie. But one of my favorite pieces of Harry Potter trivia is that the original actor who was supposed to play him was Hugh Grant. He had to back out because of scheduling, but
What?
he would have been amazing. Especially, I don't know who has seen Paddington 2. If you haven't, you have to watch it because it's so cute. And Hugh Grant is he plays someone who could be similar to Gilderoy Lockhart in personality, and he crushes it. He's so good, and he would have been spectacular as Gilderoy Lockhart. So I am a little bit sad that we didn't get to see that, but I do love Kenneth Branagh.
I feel like he played a version of Gilderoy in Bridget Jones' Diary.
Kind of.
Kind of that kind of.
He has that sort of cad-ish kind of thing in a lot of his roles, but that's
Yeah. I mean, both Lorena and I, like, our jaws just dropped. I saw her reaction. We're both like, "What?" I mean, I I have loved, like, my favorite Kenneth Branagh movie is Much Ado About Nothing, because I'm a Shakespeare nerd, which is why I love Tom Hiddleston also. But um, like, and I love that, because Emma Thompson
mhm.
is also in that, and like we see her later on in this, and they, their previous relationship and everything. Um, but I mean, I can see Hugh Grant, but I just he is so perfect as Gilderoy Lockhart for me. So um, yeah. Um, I do want to say, like when you going back to the cost of the books, just the fact that everyone has to get every one of these books, knowing that you never. I know we're going to get to that, but you never see them once get all of this, and then he just gives them to Harry for free.
I know.
I just, I was like, what an ass.
Well, and that's I was trying to figure out. I'm like, can't the Weasleys just buy like 1 or 2 sets, and they can all like use them amongst themselves?
That's
Like,
what I thought
do each
too.
one of them really have to have an entire set of his books?
Right. And they share everything else.
Right.
Like the twins especially could share the books. Maybe Percy gets his own set because he's prefect.
Percy would insist on his own set because that is a super Percy thing to do.
The twins could share, and Jenny doesn't care. Jenny and Ron don't care. Ron hates Gilderoy.
Right.
I thought it was Dick, and I actually had a professor in college who made us buy his books.
That's what I said, that you were off when I said that there was like a Tumblr post that was like, this is actually a super relatable thing to the Muggle world for
and
him to do.
Didn't buy any of them because I never in college. The first thing I learned is you probably aren't going to use most of the books, or you'll use like a little part of like a chapter. So I just wait till I got the syllabus and then buy. But he was like, no, we're going to use all of them. And so, we did. I didn't buy all of them, but I bought some of them. And I'm like, what a dick. And it was like such a, like, buy my books because no one else will, but I want to make more money. And I don't know. For Gilderoy, it's different, I guess, because it's not academic. You know, I did like Hermione's take though, where she's like, "Oh, we get to meet this guy who's written all the textbooks we have to buy." It was like such a Hermione thing to say.
Well, I also love that. I mean, we don't know this yet, but at this point, at least I guess Dumbledore knows that the people who are going to take this job, they only last a year, because after Voldemort got turned down for the job, the students after that, I forget what book. It's either like, is it 6 where he tells Harry
It's
this?
probably 6, because
Yeah,
that's where we get the most
all the memories.
backstory. Yeah.
That they only last a year, and so Dumbledore was like, "Well, I mean, he's only going to last a year. No one else really wants this job. Like, let's just get this idiot." Like, you know,
Doesn't Snape want the job though?
he
But I guess
does,
he can't
right,
give it to Snape because
right,
he needs him there
right.
because he's a spy.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay. We need to talk about the brawl.
The fisticuffs.
The
And
lack
that
of
never happened in the movie. That I'm
No.
so ticked
but
about.
also like it doesn't really happen in the book. And I had never read the book, as we know, and then there was some like meme where it was like, I wish that the brawl happened, and it was like, there's a brawl.
Mhm.
Like, what? And then I get to it, and it's like some heated shoving, and then they call it a brawl. Like, no one punches anyone. That is not, there are no punches.
There's like books flying and all kinds of stuff.
Heavy books. He gets hit by encyclopedia toadstools and it bruises his eye, and Arthur comes out with a cut lip.
Right.
Okay?
There's blood,
I've read this scene more than one
bruises.
time.
That's a brawl.
I think like
But
Hagrid
it's
comes in
not-
and separates.
They're not punching though.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's still, I don't know.
It was just so funny to hear, like, you know, Lucius Malfoy, who's this pristine kind of peacock, you know, aristocratic person, to like lower himself and start hitting people, which I thought was funny, and I kind of ticked off. It wasn't in the film, but you know, I wanted Arthur to at least punch this guy, just because it's like, yeah, Weasley redemption.
I know that's
Jamie, your thoughts?
Well, it's, I agree with Zinni. I think that it's funnier for Lucius because he is that guy, you know, he's that aristocratic gentleman. So to get in a fist fight in the bookstore is like so sad.
And then to have Hagrid be
Right,
the
and
one,
Hagrid,
like a half giant,
right,
is
and
the
like we
one
know
to
what
rip
his
it
opinion
apart.
is of Hagrid.
Right.
So to have Hagrid split them up, I mean, it's like they might as well, from his perspective, they might as well have gotten into a fight in like a Taco Bell parking lot. Like it's just like this is the lowest moment for him, like, socially, that he's had in a while. And because he's the worst, I just think it's hilarious. So yeah, I do I mean, that's already a very long movie, but I wish maybe
you could fit this 1 minute
some moment somewhere else and fit this in.
This is like
that would have been hilarious.
Ad. Not you don't have to cut anything, and we can see less spiders and more.
They put Jason Isaacs in like that long, luxurious way. Like the hair would have been flying and just all kind. Yeah, it would have been. And because like Fred and George are like cheering Arthur on, like it would have been amazing.
Although I don't think Lucius Malfoy would be caught dead at a Taco Bell. Maybe an Olive Garden.
I wonder if they filmed it. I wonder if they filmed it.
I don't. Well, you have the extended, and it's not in that.
It's not, but still, I would
venture to guess no, just because
I think they would have
like that take a lot of like choreography and stuff, and
I think they would have left it in if they had filmed it, because that scene, like the fight itself, isn't very long in the book. It's like 2 paragraphs maybe, so there's no way it could be so long in the movie, and it would actually it would have more action added in, where the car with less action, you know, they could have shortened the car sequence. I do have this is kind of like a weird
I don't know, pet peeve thing, but like how could Jenny be holding that many books in her cauldron? Like, I feel like she would not be able to carry like 20 I know, like
books
they're heavy.
in this giant pewter cauldron with like like Harry's just like, here, you can have mine, like future wife, let me dump these on you. And she's just like, cool. I'm like, how is she holding this? And the cauldrons aren't like these tiny things. There's just like this weird, like,
and they're pewter.
Yeah.
First year
Right.
are pewter.
Yeah, it's not lightweight. It's not like a, nonstick frying pan or something. But I also we were talking about Jenny before, and I like in this scene, she stands up for Harry, and it's like the first time I guess they've been together. No, because this is like the next day. So it's like she had gotten over herself enough to be like, let me stand up for Harry's honor to Draco. And I was like, yeah, Jenny.
She's getting there. Yeah, it's in there.
So once it says, Hagrid has separated, they hurried up into the street, the Granger shaking with fright, and Mrs. Weasley beside herself with fury.
She's gonna be so embarrassed. That's Molly cannot catch a break. There's always some shenanigans going on with that many kids,
right?
And her husband. That's
her G's are in them too, and she was not a goody two shoes by any means. So the question is, where did Percy come from? That's the only question.
Oh my god!
Speaking of Percy, Zanib, what do you have to say about Percy?
Yeah,
Percy who? You know what? He's interesting because I think when they're at the Burrow, like before going to Diagon Alley, I think that the twins are like perfect Percy, Percy who can do no wrong. But at the same time, it's, in a way, I kind of feel bad because it's like he's isolated himself away. He's not playing Quidditch. He's up in his room studying. So, I mean, yeah, he's kind of an ass, but, and he becomes a bigger ass, down the line. But I feel kind of bad for the guy.
But actually, he's not. He's like pining over Penelope, is what he's doing in his room, which is quite romantic.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So he's like hiding his secret love, so he doesn't get made fun of by his mean brothers.
He is like the black sheep of the Weasley family. He's the more like cerebral brother, especially of the ones that are at home now.
Yeah, he's most like Bill, I think, in comparing them all. Because Bill's was head boy and
now he works in banking and
I had such a huge crush on Bill Weasley. I was so ticked off they hadn't introduced him in Goblet of Fire with his dragon fang earring, breaking my heart. Breaking my heart.
I know we don't really have a lot of bad boys like that in Harry Potter. So, yeah, to not introduce him when they had the chance in the movie, what a wasted opportunity. That's
okay. Well, how long do you think it was from this this fight, this brawl, to the end of the summer holidays? What do you think? How much time passed?
Well, as someone who literally just wrote this in a fan fiction, I have this timeline down, and it's about a month. So Harry arrives, and then Ron got the letter from Hermione saying, I'm going to be at Diagon Alley, and then Molly's like, oh, good, we should go. So they all go that Wednesday. And so it's right after Harry's birthday, which is July 31st. So it would be the first week of August. And then September 1st is when the train leaves. So we know that it's about a month.
Yeah. In total. Okay. That he's there is about a month?
Yeah, he arrives on his birthday. Well, probably,
right.
The morning of August 1st. And then
they
go on Wednesday, whatever Wednesday is. So it's not clear if that's the next day. I think it's in a couple days because they
Right.
kind of talk about stuff.
But
And then the
thereabout,
rest of
yeah.
the holiday, he's just at the burrow doing silliness with the
Right.
boys and teaching Arthur how to use a telephone. We learn at the very end.
Right. So then we get the best trip in the car that has been fit with
Oh my God.
expanding everything. And I mean, so now 7 children, well, it's not 7 children, but suddenly there's Fred, George, Percy, Ginny, and Harry and Ron. So 6 kids, Molly and Arthur. So there are 8 people in that car, plus all of their trunks, 2 owls, and they all have to fit in there. And so they've expanded the trunk, they've done everything else. So that is, yeah, that's fantastic. That's the best way to get to King's Cross. So yeah, that's great.
Well, here's what kills me about this chapter. So I had not read this book in a while. I had seen the movie many times since then, like much more recently. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if this whole deal with them not being able to get through the barrier and going and driving to Hogwarts, like if there was more of a thought process in there besides like we can't get through and we're taken off in the car. And there's really not. Like, maybe go stand by the car for a hot second. See if your parents come back. Like, it's literally, we can't go, oh, we'll just drive there. It's fine. Like, even for being 12, this is a super dumb thing to do. And McGonagall calls them out on it later. She's like, why didn't you just send us an owl? And Harry's like, you know.
Because they're 12.
I know, but still, that's what I'm saying. Even for 12, I still think this was exceptionally stupid. Like, he's like, oh, you know, now that did seem like the obvious thing to do. Yeah, of course it did.
Or like, just wait. Like, Harry's first thought was, let's just wait by the car. That's what he said. And then Ron's like, oh my God, the car. We should just drive to Hogwarts.
Right. And
because I've driven before. And you haven't, Ron.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Harry just wants to do the cool thing because he's a big loser. But like, it's stupid. Like, I agree. It was just like really, really like, come on, guys. I know you just snuck him out of his house, but like the just because the barrier's shut one way doesn't mean it's shut the other way.
Right. It's
also like if you can't get in, that doesn't mean every single wizard and witch on the platform won't be able to get out. Like, you don't know how this magic works. So why are you making assumptions that you do?
Right. And not giving it time to see if they pan out.
Right.
As like said, because they're 12.
I don't know. I think that's a lot of leeway. But maybe just Jamie and I wouldn't have done. Jamie and I got blocked, we would have been like, let's just wait.
Right. I don't think we're giving average 12-year-olds enough credit. Like,
I agree.
I think a random 12-year-old would be like, you know what, maybe just waiting for our parents would be the best thing to do here.
I agree.
You know, if it's like 20 minutes, a half an hour, and then they don't come back, maybe then you have to start making some decisions about what you're going to do. But Ron's like, I don't know, actually, they can't get back, let's fly the car.
In the wizarding world, there are a lot of like black and white decisions where like if you miss the train you're expelled, you know, like you suddenly can't get to where you need to go. But then there's all these gray weird areas. It's such a weird world. Like it doesn't have clean rules.
And how many 12-year-olds are dying to get to school?
Ones who live with the Dursleys or underneath the ghoul.
Right, but Ron was like, let's stay home. Okay. Can we talk about how first Fred forgot fireworks, so they waited and went back to get the fireworks, and then Ginny forgot the diary. This entire year would not have happened if they would have let Ginny leave the diary
at home.
Yep. You don't need it.
No.
That's why just buy a new one.
That's why I wanted to know how long it happened. So she had a month alone with the diary already.
Right, because
like
I don't
she
know.
couldn't have left it. I think she already had formed an emotional
Right.
attachment.
Did
to
we
it.
mention that, like, in Borgin and Burke's, that is when Lucius slips her the diary.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she's had it for all that time. So yeah,
And with Harry living there, there's no way she wasn't writing in it.
right. Yeah,
Totally.
she's an
About her
11-year-old girl. She has this giant crush,
And
And now
he's
her diary is
living-
talking back to her. Like, yeah.
which I just think it's
I'd be
hilarious
upset.
that, like, this form of Voldemort is listening to Harry vent about her boy troubles. Or listening to Ginny vent.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a lot. I really just wanna come back to power. Like, I can't believe I'm having to do this.
Oh my God, I just got a mental picture.
of Voldemort
Achieve
going,
by any means, you guys.
It's
That is the Slytherin
Right,
way.
it's like he's getting the message from it, and it's like, dear diary, why doesn't Harry like me? And he's like, oh my God.
Murder the roosters.
Harry is downstairs right now with my brother. He
Right.
doesn't even look at me.
Hard eyes. But he forms a connection. He's very good. He's a perfect manipulator.
Yes.
Oh man.
So they're driving to school, and they almost crash into the side of the castle, like barely managed to avoid that, and they hit the Whomping Willow. But Lorena and I went to a Harry Potter exhibition in New York, and they had this super interesting, like, selection of pages, and in an early version they crashed the car into the lake, and then, like, mermaids surrounded the car and, like, helped them escape. And I don't remember if it said why that was changed or not, because there were some explanations like that for some of them. But
she said she needed to introduce the Whomping Willow.
Right. Okay.
But he didn't have any purpose to the mer people yet. So there was no need to introduce them. It was just like you could mention their general existence. Like
right.
Did, but
okay.
We didn't need to know. And then she also, I think, wanted to have ability to use the car again. And it was essentially.
And when it would have been at the bottom of the lake. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's interesting is I obviously hadn't read the book when I read these pages. So then when I was reading the book, in these pages, they crash because they run out of gas. And so it's a very practical reason. And they cut that actually in the actual book. The engine fails, it's faulty or whatever. And so I'm waiting for them to run out of gas as I'm reading the book. Like, why isn't this? Oh, it's just the engine. And then I was like, okay. Like, I knew they weren't going to go into the lake, but it was like one of those weird, it's so similar. Like, she kept a lot of the scene the same. It's just like this ending of it changes. And so as I was reading it, it was like a weird, like an inaccurate deja vu moment for me. Of like I had read the fanfic version first and then read the real thing later, but J.K. Rowling's first writings, not actual fanfic. Anyway, it was interesting. It was an interesting read. And I guess if they ever do that exhibit where someone is watching, it was good. I thought it was well done.
Yeah, it was really good. They had a lot of interesting stuff.
But let's see.
So
McGonagall.
I was just going to bring up McGonagall and Snape because they were like, why is there an empty chair? Who's the teacher? Where's that? Where's Snape? And he's like, I'm right behind you.
I know, it's that classic, like, they're standing right behind you thing.
Right. And he was ready to, send them packing and everything. And luckily they don't get expelled and, everything. But I love that Harry is able to talk themselves out. They are, and speaking of Gryffindor, Professor McGonagall said sharply, but Harry cut in, Professor, when we took the car, term hadn't started. So Gryffindor shouldn't really have any points taken from it, should it? Professor McGonagall gave him a piercing look, but he was sure she had almost smiled. Her mouth looked less thin anyway. I will not take any points from Gryffindor, she said. And, like he talked himself out of
Right.
losing any points before.
And like she
the curtain
appreciates that he went for it. So
yeah, and I was like, oh, I love that he was like, I'm going for it.
It's
So
the first sign that he's truly a Slytherin, which he deals
right,
with an
that he has
identity
those
crisis
Slytherin
with
tendencies.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I
But
love
did,
that line.
yeah, I love McGonagall. I think this is one of her best like moments because we get to see her. I like when her and Snape go against each other. Anytime they're together in a scene is actually really good. They have a really good dynamic where they're partners, but also like enemies in the same sense. And it continues so well. And then to know how it's going to culminate, in book 7, I just love that it's so early on developed that they have this like house rivalry where they're both head of house and they want to one up each other. But you also know that like McGonagall's twice his age and like he's so young. I mean, he's the same age as the James Potter would have been, or as Remus and Sirius are. And they were like 20 when they had Harry or something. They were really young. And
so
Harry's
yeah,
like
he's
12.
like in his 30s.
He's like younger than me right now. So it's weird, like the picture in Emily's illustrated version of Snape from book 1, he looks like he's like 80 and just like,
well, even
like what have you been through, buddy?
Yeah,
like,
at the exhibition they had those portraits of everyone, and the Snape portrait was not flattering. That all that just like hatred and self-loathing and all that's kind of that shit ages you. Has not. Yeah, he's not doing like he's the potions master. Like you would think he would be able to get himself some serums, all kinds of stuff, but he's clearly
living peace or something.
Yes, he's clearly too depressed to use them because
that's sad. I don't want to feel sad for him.
He needs like a Fab 5 intervention.
He really wanted to get them expelled though, and I just don't understand that because you need Harry to be able to fight Voldemort in order to win this war. Like, this. This is your secret knowledge. So why would you want him expelled and unable to continue learning magic? Like, it's just illogical he would have this hatred, like this immaturity. I just don't understand. But, we're talking about Dumbledore's chest, so.
My favorite line is on my book, it's page 81, and it says Snape looked as though Christmas had been canceled. Like after all of this and like bringing them in, and it's like, damn it, I want them to get their just desserts. Poor Snape.
I do love that he pulls out the evening edition, and we really get to see like what consequence this could have for the Weasleys. And I love how terrible Harry feels. Like he feels worse now than he did when he saw their empty vault. And it's just like you really get to like, I love how well developed Harry is in his empathy. And then he just has this like immense guilt a lot. But it comes from a good place. And like Ron just doesn't have that because it's like, oh, it's my dad. But Harry, like, he knows what not having love is. And the fact that now he's like broken this trust and taken advantage, and he just feels so terrible. And I'm like, oh, sweet Harry, you're back. Your sassiness has been pushed aside in favor of your true
out for
form,
the time being.
And like your true character has come through again. So I do love that we get those little glimpses of Harry's like true heart, and how he feels just so horrible for making a dumb choice when he could have said no to Ron.
And put up some kind of a fight. Yeah.
Stand up to your friends. Do not give in to peer pressure.
Right.
Your owl's angry. Listen to your owl. But
One quick thing. I know house elves have magic. They can apparate. They have some other things. But what type of magic does it take to seal the barrier? And how does Dobby have that magic?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't really get a ton of detail. Like, we hear that like house elves have special magic, but we don't really get a lot of details on what that magic entails because, Dobby does this kind of stuff. We know that that Creature does some stuff, but yeah, we don't really get because yeah, that's a lot. Like to block the entire platform at the perfect moment. Like, was he around?
I think
Did he have to
so.
be nearby? Or did
because they can apparate anywhere. So I think he would have known, okay, today's the day, and then apparated because no one's going to arrive and have to wait like 10 hours for the train.
right.
Like, they know when it's leaving. So they're going to come 30 minutes ahead. So he probably was just waiting.
Right.
And like his family would have been there. So he would have needed to hide. He could have left after they left, or he probably helped bring their stuff
right.
to the platform. And they might just apparate directly onto the platform, the Malfoys, like, and not use the passage. So I don't know. It's not really, we never really see what?
They'd probably do side-along apparition and have Dobby carry all the stuff.
Right. And we know he can do that because he can apparate anywhere and bring, like, that's how they get all their stuff into the castle, is they apparate it in with the house elves. So like up to their rooms and everything.
Yeah. But so, I mean, either way, he's a powerful little guy.
Yeah, the house elves are so powerful. That's why they had to enslave them. And I think that
they didn't have to do that.
No, obviously. That's why they chose to enslave them. Yes. Let me rephrase. Because it's not said, it's implied. So I think that's, I think in book 4, that's Hermione's like, this is a problem because you've created it,
I'm wondering if there's a way, or if there is a kind of monitoring device that the wizarding government has on like house elves, just because like the spectrum of like the level of magic that they can do, like cutting off the barrier and then apparating into Harry's bedroom, it definitely makes me think how they monitor kids or underage wizards who've done magic outside of Hogwarts. If there's some,
yeah, I don't think so, because I think they don't respect them as beings. I think they don't have rights, and so they're not allowed a wand, or they're not allowed any, So I don't think they track them. It's like your owner is responsible for you. So when in like the later, when we meet Winky, and Winky, gets in trouble, it's on her owner, not her. And that's how it's perceived. So it's like your owner didn't have control of you, basically.
And it's why Harry got the notice for doing underage magic for the hover charm, because it happened at the house, not because Dobby did it. So
they can't track it to the wizard. It's just the location.
Right. And because in book 6, when Harry and Dumbledore are in the cave and they're taking that boat across the lake, it's Dumbledore says something like, the way the magic is set up, like only one wizard can be in it. And Harry's like, well, I'm in it with you. And then we find out that like Creature was in it with Regulus. And Dumbledore says something to the effect like, I don't think Voldemort would really, like, he wouldn't count that. Like he doesn't even like, see them as like being worth considering in his calculations for that. So I think it's fair to say that a lot of like the larger sort of magical world might feel the same way, that house elves probably aren't really worth putting those restrictions on, because the individual families are going to take care of it. And
well, Dobby's whole purpose is to protect Harry Potter because their treatment changed after Harry Potter got rid of Voldemort.
Right.
So we know for sure Voldemort did not treated
Right.
them like vermin, is what Dobby says. And so it's, you know, they became garden gnomes in his eyes that were more useful than biting garden gnomes are. Yeah, it's sad. It's an upsetting situation.
It is. We're going to get lots more Dobby content, though.
And I know we
future
keep
weeks.
going, but we have been on for more than an hour and a half.
Yes.
So
we just love Harry Potter that
We
much.
do.
We do. We are
All right. So what are our next 5 chapters? That will be Gilderoy Lockhart and
We
take
get
us
the
through
Howler.
the Rogue Bludger.
We get the Howler,
And
that
so
I'm
everything
excited
that
to talk
happens in
about.
between then. Yeah. The Death Day Party, that's a fun one because that's like nowhere in the movie. That got cut entirely.
Oh, I need to read that chapter.
You said you
need to
read the whole book.
I skipped some of it.
I
gotta go back.
Writing on the wall.
Yes.
Ooh, Halloween.
So
So
No
yeah, it's gonna be a
trolls.
good one.
more fun with Gilderoy.
Yes.
That'll be loads of fun.
Yes. So we'll be back next time with that.
So when is next time? Do we know?
Next time we do every other week, so people have plenty of time to read, because
So
life
we will
is
be
busy.
here on the 21st of March, Thursday the 21st.
So I don't think I'll be here, but
Right, you're gonna be on vacay,
out of country, not in a usable time slot. So I'll be asleep.
Will be missed.
Yes, you'll be here in spirit.
I guess I don't have to read that chapter.
That's right. You can continue to skip the Death Day Party.
And then for anybody else, Jamie and I will be joined with Nikki and a couple of other people. We will be doing Captain Marvel Hangout next Wednesday the 13th.
Yes.
Yay.
So,
it's very good. I saw it at an early screening. I think people are really going to like it. I'm excited to talk about it.
And I will be seeing it tomorrow. So
I see it Saturday. I'm psyched.
So perfect. Okay. Thanks for joining us on Harry Potter and the Totally Normal Hangout. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Woo, bye.
Bye-bye.
Knox.